1. Yeah, let's go. We're early. Y'all, I hope to God somebody's on here early, because everybody always busts on us because, like, we're on, like, Frakes time, and we, like, show up a little bit late every now and then. But, yeah, we're going to rock this. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Yes, we're early. We're rocking. So if you're on here, you get some extra minutes tonight. So we're going to just rock right into this one. I mean, I'm kind of on one today, so this could get a little out of hand, probably, maybe, most likely.
It should get out of hand.
My job tonight is going to play referee, so I have to reel him in. So I'm going to have to keep him reeled in.
Busy, you know how to fish?
Huh?
You know how to fish?
No.
Oh, well, you better learn real quick. You're reeling him in from
I know how to catch him. Now, real fish, no. I've caught a Garrett or two in my life.
Got it.
But I know he's been listening to Eminem all week, so I may not be able to. So you'll have to help me keep him focused.
I mean, has anybody listened to that album yet?
No.
Either of you?
What?
No.
Have you listened to the album yet?
Just 2-3 songs, not the whole album.
It's the best shit he's put out in 4 or 5 albums. I mean, like, He kills some shady. Like, and you told me I need to see the video, so, like, I definitely want to see the video.
Oh, you haven't seen that yet? When he actually talked to Slim? Yeah, when he talked to Slim Shady. Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Like, I definitely want to see that. Like, I need to see that. Like, that's got to be pretty dope.
You expect nothing less.
Yeah, I mean, kill the outlet that gave you the freedom to say whatever the fuck you wanted to say. And that just, like, I don't know, that resonates with me right now.
Expand on that a little bit.
I will, but there's nobody on here yet, and there's someone that should be on here. He must still be driving home, so he's going to have to go back and watch this a little bit. But as y'all see, I am decked out in Operation Yellow Tape. So for those of you who have not or do not know about Operation Yellow Tape, this is my buddy Kenny Mitchell's jam. So Kenny, I'll tell you more about it.
We can't see shit.
Can't see shit.
Oh, you had to bend down because the camera's...
Do the squat.
Yeah, there you go. There it is. Look at that. Practice. Quads. No shaking anywhere. There you go. There are too many of us to ever feel alone.
All right, so that's my shout out to my buddy Kenny Mitchell. Kenny is a retired firefighter. He runs an amazing program. He's coming up on his 3rd Operation Yellow Tape seminar. It's coming up. I don't even think he has any seats left. He's like sold out year 3. I mean, he might have a few. It's like, if you really want to go out to Virginia, but his message speaks really loud to me, because I have a lot of friends that are first responders, police, firefighters, even military people. And, you know, so many of them, and I didn't realize this as much. I mean, you hear a lot about PTSD, but you don't hear a lot about PTSD for firefighters, EMS, police officers. And they struggle with this stuff, man. Like, it's not just 22 kill, you know, and like these guys coming home with PTSD and there's 22 vets a day committing suicide. There's a shit ton of first responders and firefighters and police officers that are having these same struggles. I mean, they have a difficult job, especially in today's world.
100%.
And most of them don't reach out. They don't. And I get this because I feel this way sometimes at home, where I want to leave work at work. Like, I feel like I don't want, and my wife gets upset at times because I don't share as much about the work day. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not as like forthcoming talking about my work day. And I think that applies across the board, that I think a lot of men feel like it's my burden to carry this. I carry this on my shoulders. I don't want you, my wife, my fiance, my girlfriend, I don't want you worried about, you know, what I'm doing to provide.
Well, you know what that is? We were wired like that from as men. We were wired like that from a kid. Remember, if you get hit, you're in football, you're in any sports, you get knocked down, what do they tell you? Suck it up.
Back up.
Carry it on. Say nothing. Don't let me catch you crying. So then if that's the way that you're wired as a man, So when you get to be an adult, and I heard this from actually, it was a dating conversation because women were complaining about men don't express their emotions. Well, we were trained not to. So then when we don't, well, he's hard, he's closed in, because we know no other way. We just got to handle it. We got to deal with it. We got to handle it. And then if you have no way to get it out, to say it, or my thing is right now, I look at it because I'm kind of going through the whole thing about where I pour my cup out for everybody. I got so many people.
Yeah.
I don't even have a cup. I got a fucking pitcher. But nobody really pours back into me.
You got that like Ozarka bottle that the guy brings to the office and refills.
Yes, that gallon a day. And then I may get like a half a coffee cup back. And I got to get that from above, so that you feel empty, but I got to keep on. I have to keep on pouring. I got to keep on pouring till you get to the point where it's like.
But that's a big part of Operation Yellow Tape, man. Like, I mean, what my boy Kenny is doing, man, like, I just think it's amazing. Like, he's telling people, like, start these conversations. Like, find somebody. There's somebody, like, your life matters. And, like, find somebody to share that stuff with. Like, like, I feel guilty just with my wife alone. Like, I'm not in one of those super high-stress jobs and stuff like that. But the reality is, and we all say this, don't quit. Like, I think there's levels to this, too. Like, yeah, don't quit on your dreams and your pursuits and stuff like that, but don't quit when it comes to talking about your mental health or how you're really feeling or how you're coping with something. Like, if something's eating at you, man, like, you need to find, like, I don't give a shit if it's your friend at the lounge, it's your, your best friend or whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, and, when in a lot of situations, that should probably be your wife. And, I'm not saying my wife isn't. I mean, because she most definitely is. But as a man, I feel certain regard to not just dump that on her because, like, I want to leave that at work to a certain degree. If I'm stressed out about my sales or, whatnot, like, I don't want her now worried when I come home. And then then I have to go through that all over again when I've been dealing with it all day long.
Now just imagine you're a law enforcement officer that just busted a sex trafficking ring and had to help take this group of small children and get them care and get them assistance in any way.
Yeah, so I mean,
taking that home.
What they see is like not really imaginable for most people. So shout out to Kenny. I fully support Operation Yellow Tape. Y'all go to Kenny Mitchell's site, Operation Yellow Tape. We're good. And, like they're doing good to help a lot of people. He has a seminar. He has a lot of stuff. He puts out a podcast. We're going to have Kenny on at some point when we can get him down here and share that. He's even asked me to speak at Operation Yellow Tape in 2025. So I'm working on that because now he's giving me a challenge, to like level up from my Eagle Rise Summit with Redmond, and I've got another opportunity. So like we're trying. I'm working on this stuff. So, but wanted to give my guys a shout out. If you guys don't know, I know a lot. There's a lot of firefighters, police officers, and stuff that check out this show, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, whatnot, but if you guys do, you're going to resonate with this guy. So go check his stuff out. I did tell him today, I gave him a really great idea for a t-shirt design. So if he doesn't do it, I'm going to make one for him and just send it to him and surprise him and be like, haha, here you go. So I was kind of busting on him a little bit today. I was like, your boy Redmond has these like classic tees. I'm a t-shirt snob, so like, I'll support any and all of my friends. And if you got something legit, I'm your Huckleberry. Like I'll rock your stuff if I believe in it. But like I was giving him a hard time. I mean, these are really nice t-shirts. They're really well made. They fit. I told him it's kind of the dad bod t-shirt. Like I don't feel as bad about not being in the gym lately. So we kind of rock and roll with that. So, that's cool. But I mean, this is legit, man. Like he's doing his thing. We're working on our merch store. So, I had to give him a little flack because I expect it back when mine starts rolling.
Oh, yeah.
So without further ado, I've rambled already for a few good minutes here. But welcome Joseph Stephens to the show, y'all. What's up, my man?
How are we doing, Garrett?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Things have been going well for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. A whole lot of chaos, but all in the pursuit of something greater.
I'm happy to hear that for you, my man.
Thank you. Well, here, fuck. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
And we'll ice this right now because people are going to get on us if we forget about this. And we're going to go down rabbit holes today.
Nope,
so
let's do it.
Everybody wants to know what we're drinking, what we're smoking. So I'm going Buffalo Trace neat. I'm smoking. You're probably going to be more educated on this because, like, I haven't smoked a Tabernacle in a long time. I really don't know. I know mine's the reverse of yours.
Sort of.
Like, I have the Cuban seed as a wrapper.
So you've got the Tabernacle CT-142 from Foundation.
Yeah.
That is a Havana and Connecticut seed hybrid that's grown up in Nicholas Melillo's farm up in the Connecticut River Valley. So he's the founder of Foundation. And he grew that wrapper especially for that cigar and then blended around it with the binder filler. And then while Garrett's doing that, I've got Tabernacle from Foundation. So this is the standard Connecticut broadleaf wrapper. And then pairing that with some Lagavulin 16 neat as well.
Whew.
Yeah, big Scotch guy.
Well, I'm drinking a vintage, what's this called? A Coke Zero cherry flavor from Schlotsky's.
Biz has his standard Shirley Temple. He's rocking it out over there.
But this Andalusian Bull I'm smoking.
Boy.
Man.
Yeah, see, these are some of the things, like, this is where I want some, like, recordings, like, the before and after the show when you guys can, like, if you subscribe to the Patreon, you get to see all this extra footage. If y'all saw his bougie ass earlier, I mean...
Okay, first of all,
like,
give the whole context, and I have a witness.
Like,
it wasn't being bougie.
It was kind of ridiculous today. I don't know what
was
he's
that
on.
ridiculous? Was that ridiculous? If I said he offered me a cigar that the last 2 times I smoked it, it canoed. That's the term we use when it doesn't burn correctly.
Wait. I opened up my travel case, which has like 4 or 5 cigars, and I said, one of these work?
I just saw the one that you
pulled
handed
the first one out, and he was like,
I know. I gave a valid reason. He said, no problem, and he shut his travel
Hey, gentlemen,
case.
I think this is a classic case of miscommunication.
oh, don't help him right now.
I'm not helping either of you.
Joseph is like the great ghost whisperer. Horse whisperer goes, he can calm anybody down. He can go in the middle of an MMA ring and be like, fellas, let's talk about this for a minute.
Yeah. Why are
Mediation.
you guys being so aggressive with one another?
Exactly. Man, my bad. I'm sorry.
Set the ego down on the edge of the octagon.
Yes.
And then get to business.
Like,
That's
I feel
all
like he'd
ask.
even be like good at like a bouncer at a club, like even with drunk people. Like somehow Joseph would be able to like just smooth it over and be like,
I have a feeling you've done that before.
really
Have you ever
don't.
done that in your life? Have you ever been a bouncer or anything
I've
like
never
that?
been a bouncer, but in college I was the most responsible friend. So I was always having to corral my friends.
You're the babysitter.
I was the babysitter aside from maybe one occasion. So yeah, other than that,
yeah.
I've never been a bouncer.
You bring that air of confidence and you speak so well that you're just kind of like, you're just able to calm a situation down. I mean, I've watched you do it at the lounge here, but like, I could just see this, like, it would be the most bizarre thing that like, everybody's like, oh, this is about to go down. Everybody's pulling out their phones about recording. And Joseph walks out and is just like, hey fellas, like, why is everybody mad? Like, have you tried this? And like, he's handing people cigars and like, hey, I mean, like, we can all get along. We're all humans, right? Like,
me and
Garrett in the back. Punch him in the mouth, Phil. Punch him in the mouth.
Well, I tell you guys,
that's just going to go viral on TikTok. Go.
I learned a lot from the great and sage Adam Sandler.
Do explain.
Who's Fraba?
All I know from Adam Sandler is get in the hole.
Anger management.
Anger management.
If you haven't seen Anger Management and you have anger issues, watch the movie. You'll laugh your ass off, and then you'll take something away from it.
So, in other words, don't watch Happy Gilmore before that because he was always angry, telling it to get in the hole, and then he goes to anger management. Okay.
I was about to say, you got to watch. You got to see his true progression, right? He's angry in Happy Gilmore because the ball won't go home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know, and then you've got rich people trying to take his grandmother's house. Like, come on, dude. He gets to the point of needing anger management.
See, y'all, look how he just explained that shit.
Well, because think about it.
Everybody's now pulling up Netflix in a window on their side window.
Socrates over here, just like,
oh, come on, don't give me that shit. I'm not quite that high level yet.
Yet, it is a goal.
Yeah, it's a goal.
It's a goal.
Absolutely.
Okay. Continue, Garrett. I'm sorry.
No.
As I put my pinky in the air as I smoke my cigar.
Now that we know
his Andalusian bull.
Andalusian bull.
He didn't turn that shit down. Let me tell you.
I was no bougie in this conversation when you pulled this shit out.
So Joseph,
yes.
Before we go deeper,
okay,
give everybody like the little 2-minute rundown. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do, what your background is a little bit. Just so the people that don't know who Joseph is, or Frojo as we like to call him, the best handle or nickname ever, in my opinion. But spit it out for everybody.
Well, to start off,
or Hawk Tui it. However this is gonna go.
Oh man, I don't need that much lubrication for this story. That's why I have the Lagavulin. So I was born in Fort Worth, downtown. Well, the medical district of downtown Fort Worth, in a hospital that no longer exists. I was adopted at birth by a family that is more akin to Garrett's complexion than mine, and was raised out in Azle, Texas, just northwest of Fort Worth. So tried going to college after graduating high school in Azle. College wasn't my thing. I didn't properly learn how to study, and I didn't have the proper amount of discipline through high school to really make college the proper opportunity seized.
Yeah.
And so I withdrew from UTA over in Arlington, spent a little time in Arlington after leaving UTA, and stumbled through a few jobs over the years. I've worked in an airsoft store. I've built rifles and ammunition for a living. I've done quality control for a few different establishments over the years, and back to doing quality control now for a company down in Dallas.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
I like that. Don't you? I mean, I'm the same boat. Only I didn't do any college.
Okay.
Don't you wish that there was and it's so hard to go back once you don't just go. So I get there's that factor, but don't you wish there was a program that was more accessible or readily available that kind of just lets you go out into the world in some kind of fashion where you got to kind of learn and you were exposed to a lot of different things, and then there was college.
A lot of countries do that.
Yeah, but in a different sense, because I still think our school system, regular school or college, is completely jacked up still. I'm really interested in seeing what Jordan Peterson's doing with his new academy.
Absolutely.
I really want to see that, because that I can learn from.
Yes.
That you kind of you don't have to really just focus on one thing. There's not these requirements, but required courses and stuff that's required to be taught. I think history is really important, as well as science and math. But let's be real too. I went to school in an age where they're you're never going to have a calculator in your back pocket. You better learn how to do algebra 2. And it's bullshit. You seen this iPhone?
Yeah.
This shit will do amazing things.
I was one of the last generations, the last group of school kids that could say that they didn't have a calculator in their pocket when their math teacher said that.
Yeah. But yet at the same time, you had to go buy this Texas Instrument,
the
insane
TI-80,
nerd calculator that you might as well have known how to program a computer if you knew how to work this thing.
Yep.
But you had that, and it's why don't you teach people stuff that's real? Teach people how to balance their accounts. Teach them how to invest money. Teach them how to do things that would help them prosper. And teach them figure out how they learn best.
I think you hit the nail on the head.
Figure out how that person really learns things, so that then they can pick classes and do things within, I mean, you could still have that guided, but maybe you learn way differently than I do. Like maybe you learn from doing, and I learn like I need to hear it several times, you know, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But figure that out with the student and then create the curriculum or point them down the direction that they need to go. But have other life skills that actually matter. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, and I want to dive into this with you for sure on the history part. But like, history is important. History's there so that you learn, you know, from the past, and that you can go, okay, this civilization tried this. They represent this. They made some good progress, but they kind of fell short here. Yeah. Like, there's a reason this shit didn't work. Exactly. All right, well, we have these things now. Let's go down that road a little bit. Like, all right, like process of elimination almost.
Right.
It's crazy, but like people don't do that. There's not that approach. It's you have to take these basics. This is your required curriculum. Like, and that's why I think you see a lot of kids that, and I think there's going to be a big, personally, the world always corrects itself. At least that's what I believe.
Okay.
I believe that there are drastic corrections at times. And I think we're about to see one. Because I think we've had a lot of like really weak leadership, a lot of really weak men and women that have been in a position of authority that haven't done us much good. So I think we're about to see a real drastic shift in that because there's going to be a correction of some sorts. And whether that's World War III or Civil War, I don't really know. But like, I personally feel there's a lot of that coming. Because I feel like it's got to correct itself. And the world, one way or another, does correct itself.
Well, I do want to say that education en masse, education for, you know, whether it's an entire school district, an entire state, or the whole country.
Yeah.
They've taken the approach for public schools to make things cookie cutter to match the vast majority of people. Now, we're still using a pattern that I believe comes from the Prussian military schools.
Yeah.
Right, where you sit in a desk, the bell rings, and you get to work, and you have a set work period where you have to study and learn these things.
Yeah.
That originally came from military schools.
Yeah, not everything's like a Montessori school where you get these open environments.
But more of that is coming along.
Yeah.
You see Jordan Peterson for adults creating, you know, college accredited courses that allow someone to sit at home on their laptop and at their own pace, learn things without specific requirements, like you said, to become more educated in a specific field.
Or even something like Masterclass.
Right.
I love Masterclass.
I love Masterclass.
Like, that's so dope. You can go...
It's a format that allows you to take education into your own hands and go after the things that directly interest you because you're not going to learn something that you don't enjoy.
Which is like the whole reason I do this podcast and this particular show is because I was hearing all these unique individuals that have a different story. And in hearing their stories, I was like, holy shit, if there's some kid out there that wants to, you know, go down that path, like... It'd be great if you could, like, you know, get some rapid knowledge there and avoid a few pitfalls here and there because you just heard him talk about, like, oh, shit, I hit this roadblock. It ended up being a huge stepping stone. But, you know, same thing with Masterclass. Like, that's huge. Like, business into DJing and stuff and music and whatnot, you know, or photography.
Filmmaking. I just finished Spike Lee's class. Now I'm looking at novel writing, books, just creativity. But the thing I like about Masterclass is it's from people that you adore and people that have done it. They're proven.
Nas
you can see how they do it. Like who?
You can watch Nas teach you how to like put a rap together, like
production,
I mean, really, whatever it is, home design, cooking.
So here's the big difference between that and any other form of education that we have. Masterclass allows practicing professionals to teach you something. Do you know what that is? That's apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Right?
Word.
That's not normal education. Something we've gotten away from as a country at large, except for a few trades, is apprenticeship. You can't walk into an accounting office as a completely green and say, hey, I want to apprentice under your top accountant and learn how to be an accountant. They say, no, you got to go down to that college over there and bring us this piece of paper after 4 years.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just walk in and let someone teach you how to do that one
job.
thing expertly.
Now, the only thing I think they kind of do that in, but not even in your field anymore, because I know like journeymen and people that apprenticed in labor, like plumbers, electricians, things like that.
The labor trades.
That's what I was looking for.
The labor trades.
That still practices that, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I know firsthand because I work currently with a bunch of union guys. They're all pipe welders or pipe fitters or plumbers. And they go through an apprenticeship program through the union where they have 5 years where they have to actively work and take classes at the exact same time. They're working with journeymen who have already gone through this program. And they get on the job, hands-on experience, classroom learning, and advice and mentorship from those that have gone through the same process and have ended up where they want to be.
And what I love about that is that a book can't teach you a scenario that comes up that there's no answer to. Because even when I asked you about the job maybe 3-4 weeks ago, you said there's a guy that does things magic. He can, like they had a situation where they had to hold this and put that and spot weld here and do it because they had to come up with solutions on the fly. It's based on your knowledge of how to weld, but how to handle this certain scenario, you had to make that up.
Yeah.
You had to figure it out. And a book alone can't teach you what to do in a real world situation.
And Josh Sims just said public education is a joke. And that is a guy that I have the utmost respect for because I don't know how he does his job. Like, he deals with a special type of kid that, man, the patience and the humility that it is required to do that kind of job is unbelievable. Like, how he does that and can... And I mean, and he's also at the high school level where like...
Real quick shout out to the Frisco Ferret, Josh Sims.
Yep.
You're a badass.
You better knock a motherfucker out Saturday.
LFTP.
You better go. I better see some Little Elm action in that ring. I want to see you knock somebody out. And man, I feel really bad for you if you get knocked out. So
we will not speak that upon him. He'll fine.
I'm going to just keep rolling with you. And I'm going to be your boy and say I'm in your corner because I am.
I'm going to play Eye of the Tiger on the way out today.
Yeah.
There it is.
Damn it.
I mean, you better go hyped up into that strong.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Our guy Josh is going to go box and beat somebody's ass in Vegas this weekend. And
he has his first professional fight.
Yes, that's to let you all in on the inside joke. Sorry.
Yes.
So we've been supporting it. I even wore the Josh Ferret shirt on one of the previous episodes. But yeah, Josh, good luck.
But yeah, I agree with Josh. It is a joke between him and a lot of people that I've known that have been teachers in the past. Especially, I know one personally that he retired right around kind of at the end of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And one of the things he had to say to me, because he had been teaching for 20 years, and he didn't teach your regular core class. He taught Latin.
Cool.
And he came to me and said, I sat down with him, we were smoking a cigar, and I asked him, so what's one of the biggest challenges for a teacher today? And he said, for the young teachers, it's not all that difficult because they're coming into a scenario and they don't know any different.
Yeah.
For the teachers like him that have been teaching for 5, 10, 20 years by the time the pandemic came around.
Yeah.
It was a constant every week or every day learning something new, changing something drastic and having to implement it flawlessly.
Yeah. And I think there's another part of this too, because like one of my cousins taught for a long time. I'm not going to say how long. I don't want to call her out like that. She's probably listening. I don't want to get my ass kicked by my older cousin. But parents, I mean, I'm not a parent, and this is always where I find there's a line on like having an opinion on this, or at least you always feel there is when you don't have children.
Go ahead, I'll back you up because I think if you're going to say what I think you're about to say, go ahead.
Yeah, but like parents you have to teach your children too. Like, it's not just on the school and you send them there and it fixes all the shit at home and, you know, they just like, they come home and they're like this perfect little angel because they learned all this shit at school. No. You gotta like instill values and teach them right and wrong and give them some boundaries and some discipline and teach the kids a certain base. We're not gonna call it homeschooling, but like you need to like be a parent and teach the kids some shit, because it is not that teacher's job to then take on all those other responsibilities of the foundations of things that they should be learning at home.
The problem
there's
is
two things I have to say to that.
The problem is the parents don't support the teachers. If your kid cuts up and they act up, and then you come up and you want to be on your child's side, you know, your child and threw everything in shop class, wants to fight the teachers and do all this craziness. And I've seen parents come up and you see where the kid gets it from. So what are you supposed to do? Like, I couldn't be a teacher. I'd be a teacher for 22 minutes, maybe 23. The minute when them kids buck up to me, I don't, man.
I wouldn't hit a kid, but I'd choke the shit out of him.
Shit. I'd knock his ass out like he owed me money. Yeah. I'm not doing that. And that's the problem. There is no, like you said, it's not the teaching them the fundamentals of education, but teaching them how to have, what's the word we use? Common sense. How to act. You have to know how to act when you go somewhere, how you do something. So there's no support from home when it comes to the teachers having the backing that they need. But what were you going to say, Joseph?
There's two things that both start at the home when it comes to education. The first one is having present parents that are directly involved in the child's day-to-day. From experience as a very young child, I remember my mom was the one that was there. She was a homemaker. She was a stay-at-home mom for a few years, and for many a year since and before, she went out and worked and made as much money as she could to support her family.
Yeah.
However, when she was a stay-at-home mom and we got home from school, guess who was cooking dinner? I was cooking dinner. You know why? She wanted to teach me how to cook.
Thank you.
She knew at some point in my life that I would find someone that I wanted to be the partner of my life, and she wanted to make sure that I could take care of them.
Yeah.
So she would sit there and supervise. She'd pick everything out. But
or even your other siblings.
Well, I was the eldest. Yeah. So for a long time, I was the one that had the presence and the capability to do those things.
Yeah.
And then the other part of that is the education system has taken a back seat to the basics. Home economics isn't a thing anymore.
Really?
It's not a thing anymore. Most of the time, it's replaced with a very paltry one semester sexual education.
Oh, that was mandatory, Mac, when I was in school. I can sew a jogging suit. I can cook and bake and everything.
Yes,
like that was,
right. They don't teach that in school anymore. The last time I was taught to balance a checkbook, Garrett, was 5th grade. Yeah. I had a 5th grade, back it up. I had a 6th grade teacher. She was our history teacher, not math, not nothing. She was our history teacher in 6th grade. And she sat us down for a week and said, we're gonna do a project. We're gonna do a finance and accounting project. We had a checkbook that we had to keep balanced throughout the week or two that we were doing this. And we had to go through and basically run a household. We had to take care of bills. We had to take care of car insurance or whatever you want to throw in as placeholder for bills.
Yeah.
We had to go through this process of spending money, earning money, accounting for a paycheck, and keeping an actual physical written checkbook balanced. I've never had to do it since 6th grade.
I never had that in school. I can tell you.
But that was a teacher taking it out of her time, following her passion to ensure her students had valuable life skills when they left her class.
Let me ask you a question. How many years ago was that?
Oh, goodness.
Just give a roundabout number.
Roundabout, that would have been 2008.
16 years, whatever.
Yeah.
So think about it. It's still with you.
It's still with you.
You remember that teacher
100%.
For that specific point.
Yes.
Somebody that made a difference in your life and gave you something that lasts with you forever.
Absolutely.
You'll tell this story again to your kids. You'll do whatever.
Yes.
Or you'll take those steps within raising your kids because you know the school system's going to go. But that's the difference between, and I don't want to diss teachers because anybody that teaches, because you know there's a huge teacher shortage right now.
Yeah.
Like, and I said, me and my wife is crazy. You mentioned this stuff. We had this conversation just yesterday because it's like now, who do you find that wants to be a teacher?
Very few.
Exactly. Who make that, like, you know, like, I want to teach kids.
Just like being a cop. How hard is it to be a cop now? Like, who wants to put up with the bullshit in the world today?
Yes.
And all the loops they have to jump through and the things they have to worry about because they have to make split decisions in major life-altering events.
Protecting themselves and others.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
don't get me wrong. There's some dirty cops that deserve all the shit they get and I get it. But in the heated, and then you have to think about that too. There's so many different little networks inside networks. You know, they call it the good old boy system or whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, inside that, if you don't play, like, I mean, it's just being a kid, you know, I'm way older than you guys, but even in your day is so much different then than it is now. Because the way older. I'm way older. Way. Well, at least I know I'm way older than Joseph. Garrett, you're right behind me. But, you know, but it's just, the evolution of the world today, it really makes me wonder what are my kids and grandkids going to grow up with? Like, what is life going to be like when
what can they even say and not say? Like, this shit is driving me nuts right now. Like, you know, there's so many things. Like, we've had a lot of conversations last week. You joked about me listening to Eminem. I would love his new song, Habit. I would love for that to be the intro to my podcast. Like, he just lays it out there. And same thing. We were having this conversation off camera earlier. Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Like, I expected that to be funnier than it was just because of his past history of comedic stand-ups. But it was really just a lot of real talk. And it was like, yeah, I mean, there were a lot of parts that were really funny, but like, how many people really want to say that shit? Like,
and that's the beauty of comedians, Garrett.
Right, but we're taking that away from them. Like, I mean, you can't use the R word or the F word. And that can go a lot of different directions these days. And we're forcing all this stuff down people's throats, but you can't, like, everything is so serious. Like, people don't know how to use words well. People take extreme offense to words and take it across the line. And it's like, have we lost the intention behind that?
Yes.
You know, absolutely. And that's like one of the things I think is wrong with email and text message. There's no tone to that shit. Unless you're a Nobel Peace Prize, like, writer, like, you don't know how to do that. Like, even if you're using AI to craft your shit,
that makes it worse.
Does the AI robot know your tone or your intention? Unless you told them, I'm very angry. I need a resolution to this problem. I mean, like, you still have to review and edit it, but like a text message is like, again, Kenny Mitchell, he's gotten me in this habit. And I used to laugh about it because my older brother did this a lot. A voice text mail or text message. A voice text message. Well, guess what? It comes through just like a text. It takes just as much time or less to do it. And I can hear your tone. Is Joseph mad at me? Is he busting my balls? Are we joking? Are we having is this civil?
Right,
is he,
right.
like what's going on? You can tell in a voice text message. Yeah. But especially this younger generation, Gen Z, I think is correct. But, you got to like say pronouns. You got to do all this other stuff. Fuck. Like, let's just go. Like, can we use regular words? And why is everybody so offensive? Like, was it said with a bad intention? Was it said in jest? Like, if we just go by this written word, which, I mean, it's the whole reason I do this podcast. I tried to blog for a long time. I was too critical of my own writing. What's easier? Just speaking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just speaking. And you know exactly what I said, how I said it, what I meant, hopefully. But there's a lot less ambiguities in that than my writing.
I boil it down to one specific thing.
Okay.
We've lost the art of discourse. Discourse simply being that two people can sit across from each other and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Keep it civil, regardless of what the topic is.
Yeah.
So
agree to disagree.
Well, not even that. Let's say that you're super, super right wing.
Okay.
I'm not even saying you're a pro-Trumper
right.
or
Go.
conspiracy
no,
theorist.
fine.
You're super right wing and I'm super left wing.
Yep.
Right? But the simple fact that we could sit down together in a format just like this, no camera or not, and have a discussion, and you bring a point to me, and I digest that point, understand what you're trying to say, and then I offer you my perspective on that.
Yeah.
And then we do exactly the same thing back and forth. There's no need for agreement. There's no need for agreeing to disagree.
There's no
need for there's no issue.
Yeah.
It's simply that you're sharing your thoughts with me, and if you're open to it, I reflect on my perspective, my perceptions.
Yeah.
And then back and forth.
But and see, this is an art, I think, especially nowadays.
It has to be taught, and it has to be practiced.
Yeah, because I'm not just listening to you to ask you the next question. I want to hear where you're going to go. Like we're going to go down all kinds of rabbit holes, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. But there's, just for the record, if I showed y'all what my notebook normally looks like with Joseph, I knew I didn't have to do that. I've got this because I've got like 2 quotes I want to ask him about and some things like that. But like there literally is like, you have to learn to listen a little bit and really listen with the intent that you're actually going to learn something, or that you can at least, digest what they're saying and then continue that conversation.
Yes.
Because you and I have had a lot of deep conversations in the lounge.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, and I think this is one of the things, this is why I was super excited about getting you on here, I feel like you're in the same box as me, as much as I hate boxes. And that society creates all these boxes and these definitions. I feel like you and I truly connect with, can we just go back to being fucking humans? Like, I feel like there should be like, the checkbox in the United States should be, are you a citizen? Not a citizen. That's it. And that if you're not a citizen, but you want to be a citizen, here is the process. And you don't make it impossible, or that this person has to have an insane amount of money to achieve this. Like, this is America. This is what we were founded on. Like, you want to be a citizen? Cool. Here are the defined steps you have to take. Here's the background check. Here's this and that, so that you're not some like shithead psychopath killer just trying to escape from another country saying I want asylum or whatever, but like legit, like I want to be a citizen. Like I want to live in the US. Cool. We want you to be here. Mm-hmm. Like I feel weird selecting white on a box. Like just like having having different guests and stuff like that. Like why do I have to say African American or black male? Like, does that really fucking matter? No, it doesn't. Like, can we just go back to human? Like, there's been so many different civilizations throughout the history of man. Like, this shit drives me insane. Like, I hate all these boxes that we create. And like, I saw where a lot of your posts, especially like 2020, 2021, I was like, yep, would have loved to be smoking a cigar with you then and having some of these conversations, because it's just like you were talking about earlier. We started this off camera a little bit, but you were talking about with your new job, like it's all unions and all this. Like, what's that been like? Like, you getting tested? Guys trying to jack with you? I mean, tell us, like, what's that like?
I mean, I like to equate it to, it's sort of a social club, as how people in let's just look at pipe fitters and pipe welders and plumbers unions. Yeah. Those are the guys I've been interfacing with for the last month. Okay. And it's good faith ball busting is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
It's for 2 purposes. It's to weed out those that are going to constantly be bitchy and complain about everything and anything, because nobody wants to work with the guy that always runs to the foreman or always runs to the supervisor or the boss or whatever their title is.
I'm offended.
And just says, Joseph made a 3/5 compromise joke. I'm uncomfortable. I'm black, at least partially, right? Yeah. I've got some historical data to back up the fact that I can make 3/5 compromise jokes.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I don't want you to complain about it, even though you're fair-skinned. I want you to make the same joke back in a funnier, smarter way. If you can do that, you've won me over.
Yeah.
Right? One of these dudes, I asked him, I was making a 3/5 compromise joke. And he looks at me with this, I don't understand the joke kind of look. So I asked him, I was like, dude, do you know what the 3/5 compromise is? Wasn't it a part of the Louisiana Purchase?
Damn.
I'm like, no, it wasn't. I need you to do some homework. And everybody else in the room I'm sitting in just cracks up laughing because they understand that the 3/5 compromise came from the First Continental Convention. Yeah. If I remember correctly, it was
1776
No, it was 1787 or 1789.
Okay.
Right?
A little later.
Yeah. It was right after the Declaration of Independence, by about a decade. And it was simply so that there was a way for slaves to be counted as people among the population for voting and representation rights, and I think it was either zoning and taxation or something like that. Yeah. So it was to bolster the population where the population had a lot of slaves. Yeah. That's simply what it was. I look at it matter-of-factly, but because it was a dark day in our history as a country, I'm going to crack jokes about it. Yeah. Because if we don't laugh about something, it's only going to make us angry. Yeah. But to the same extent, I was busting his balls about it. And then he started making Sonny Pruitt references to me. I'd say, come on, man, this looks good. I was QCing something he was working on. I did a quality check. It looked good. So I go, all right, man, let's do it. And he goes, do it to it like Sonny Pruitt. I'm like, dude, you're a couple years younger than me even. Do you know who that is? Because I don't. Yeah. Like, nah, something my dad used to say to me. So all right, I did my homework. Sonny Pruitt was a character on the TV show Moving On that aired from 1974 to 1976. Okay. So he's I call him the dumb old man that makes dumb references, even though he's a couple years younger than I am. Yeah. But to the same extent of, he didn't understand what I was talking about, and I busted his balls for it. Yeah. He figured it out, and now we're buddy-buddy. Yeah. Right? I strengthened his character. Yeah. The second purpose. The first purpose is to weed out those of weak constitution and lacking of character. If you have a strong enough constitution, the second part comes along. It builds and strengthens your character. It allows you to be somebody that, okay, someone fucked up their part of work. Now I'm not going to get pissed off and start throwing shit at them because they fucked up. No, I'm just going to walk over there. I'm going to rib him about him fucking up on something that I now have to work on. Yeah. He's going to fix it. We're going to be buddy-buddy. Yeah. Instead of me getting pissed off and wanting to throw hands at somebody. It allows you to get out some of that frustration, some of that anger in a playful and mostly harmless way. Yeah. And these are guys that work with their hands all fucking day long. 10 to 12 hours a day.
Yeah, they're grunting. They're
5 to 8 days, or 8 days a week, they feel like. 5 to 7 days a week. These guys work hard and they play harder.
It's just like in the oil field. Same thing. Like they do this to each other. Like it's a sense of camaraderie and it's to weed out. Like if you can't take it, I mean, like I was just reading, like I'm trying like hell to finish Jordan Peterson's book right now.
Which one?
The 10 rules.
The 12 rules of
12
life.
rules of life. Yeah. Holy shit. It's an intense read, man. Like you can't just like slam through that. Like he drops so much, like you read something, you're like, I got to give my brain time to process that. Like I can't, his IQ is so high that like when he speaks or writes, you know, like you really have to take some time. Like, cause you'll read like 2-3 paragraphs and you'll try to get to the end of that like segment within the chapter, because he does a lot of these like broken down segments, and you're like, you get to the end of one and you start the other one and you're like, wait a minute, like there's something in the back of my brain that's telling me like I need to process that a little bit more. Like, did I really get what he was saying there? Like, did I fully wrap my brain around that concept?
Yeah.
Like, and you know, a lot of it, you know, is like way out there, because he talks about all these different theories and, you know, everything else. Like, it gets kind of hard at times. Like, you can't just plow through it. But like, he was talking about the exact same thing. Like, this is literally the section I read last night, and you brought up unions, and he was like, yeah, I worked in this union for a while, and he's like, they called me Howdy Doody for a while. And he's like, I asked the guy, why are you calling us? He's like, because you look nothing like him. They were just busting his balls, seeing like, is he going to take this? Is he still going to do his job? Is he going to go run and bitch to the foreman? The other guy that came in, this guy, you know, brown paper bag was the typical lunch you brought in. This guy's wife packed his lunch and sent him in the, like, you know, Yeti cooler lunch pail. And he came in and they started calling him Lunch Pail. And this dude lost his damn mind and literally, like, was weeded out within 3 months. So he had a, you know, really hard time adapting. But, like, I swear I get, like, we can't even define hazing and bullying. Like, hazing in sports when I was in school was like a rite of passage.
Yes.
You were waiting to get hazed a little bit by the seniors.
You want to know who the first person to haze me was?
Who's that?
It was my adoptive father. He was a big hunter. He was a big whitetail hunter. And while I don't necessarily love stand hunting, I loved it at the time because it was something we could do together. This motherfucker hazed me the hardest I've ever been hazed. He told me that it was a family, it turns out it's a Native American tradition. He told me it was a family tradition that any man in the family, when he harvests his first white-tailed deer, as he's field dressing it right after the hunt, he has to take a bite out of the fresh heart. You know what my ass did, Biz? I literally took that heart and I pulled it as far out of the chest cavity as I could. I separated it from the rest of the innards, and I looked at him and I go, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yes." So I took a bite right out of that heart. I chewed it and swallowed it. And I loved every second of it. Because to me, I was honoring the sacrifice that animal just made for me to harvest its meat.
I thought this was going to be like a snipe hunting story.
And this
and you just went
man,
300 on this shit.
Now this man turns around away from me and loses his entire breakfast on the ground. Every ounce of what he ate, it was probably a
game
fried bologna
over,
sandwich.
new champion. Yes, I won.
That's exactly how I felt.
Yeah.
Yes.
But in today's world, he hazed me, he bullied me into doing it.
No, if my mom knew about that story before the many years later when I told her that, she would have wanted to strangle him.
Yeah, he'd have been sleeping in the guest bedroom for a while.
He probably would have been sleeping at his mom's house, which was next door. So, you know, I find that there's two things. There's a need for building character, and there's a need to understand the limits when you're going to destroy character. There is a limit.
Yeah.
Because you try to make someone, this was a frat hazing method.
Yeah.
You try to make someone stand in a basement and chug 5 gallons out of that Ozarka office water jug you were talking about.
Yeah.
5 gallons of water consumed will kill a person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, doesn't even have to be alcohol.
No.
Water.
Here's a great hazing technique my fiance told me about that she witnessed.
She went to Baylor, by the way. You're not even supposed to dance there. Just saying.
No dancing, no drinking. All you get to do is pet fuzzy,
so you're
large
saying
wood
there's
bears.
hazing at Baylor?
There's not hazing.
What the hell
There's
is
character
that?
building.
Like Footloose? Like,
I love this.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just about. I think Baylor's still in that era, for another decade or so. We'll see.
Damn.
But so their character building technique for the fraternities was you were given a fruit to babysit. It was a grape. You were given a grape. It was a round circular object that if you lose said item, if you lose that object, It's replaced with a slightly larger round object. And if you continue to lose them, they will get larger and larger to the point where you are forced to carry around something like a basketball, a volleyball, a watermelon, or a pumpkin around campus with you everywhere because it shows a level of responsibility. You can keep track of something.
It's discipline too.
It's discipline.
Yeah.
Being present-minded with the things that are around you. If you're not paying attention and your buddy who's just went through this process last year in his fraternity walks up behind you and swipes that grape off the table, guess what? Now you got a tomato.
Not a raisin.
Not a raisin. A tomato. It goes up. Yeah. So there's limits.
Yeah.
But those limits are a lot higher than the public can conceive because they've never been through something to build their character.
Yeah. You know, and this is funny. I kind of touched on this last week, and then I kind of tried to stay away from it a little bit. There's been so much uproar, and I'm interested to see where you two go with this. Especially in my industry, there's been people that would never openly speak freely about how they felt about gender, faith, different things of that nature. And I get it. It's a fine line. Same thing with politics. You know, like a lot of people stand really neutral. Some people have been overly outspoken. And again, if it was like we talked about earlier, where people could have a conversation of like, hey, Joseph, like, why do you feel that way? Like, please tell me, like, you know, I'll back up and go to when Hillary Clinton was running for president. If you were on that side, I'd be like, Joseph, please tell me why you feel this. Because, like, right now, I just read the book about Benghazi and heard what she did. And I know people that were involved in that, and I've seen what they've had to say about it. How could you possibly feel okay with that? Like, just please explain to me, because I'd really like to know. And you and I could have a completely civilized conversation about that. And maybe it changed your mind, maybe it doesn't. Like, that's not really the point of it, but like to have the conversation, like, why do you feel that way? Like, why are you going to go down that road? But like the Olympics, this was a huge thing. I've seen social media deleted in my industry. I've seen some people blocked. I've seen people like, I mean, I've heard about all of it. And, you know, I edited my comment about it after the whole opening ceremony where you had drag queens mocking the Last Supper. And at first I said, I can see both sides of this. But then I thought about it for a minute and I was like, whoa, I need to be a little more clear. Because there are a lot of people that are going to take that the wrong way and not hear what I really was trying to say about this. Yes, I have a lot of friends that fought, died, or were wounded, fighting for you to have the right to speak on that however you wish and to have the freedom to do so. Now, I saw a lot of people in the LGBTQ community that I'm friends with and like have zero problem with, man. Like, you know, there's shitty people in every community. I don't care what you are. That's why we need to get back to being humans, right and wrong. Humans. Like, all right, cool. I saw a lot of posts that were like, well, this was actually a reenactment of some Greek party or whatever.
The Feast of Dionysus.
The Feast of Dionysus. And I was like, okay, hold up a second. Because I went and Googled this and looked at the pictures of that that were done by famous artists and stuff like back then. All right. If that was the goal, you at a minimum need to say that whoever designed and set this up, that was an epic failure. That was an epic failure. If that was your true intention, you truly suck at your job. Because you actually did set the stage and replicate the Last Supper. Which is funny because then, like, literally a day later, they came out and wrote all these apologies and this and that. So I was like, all right, it's kind of set the stage here. we're all watching this now. Like, what's really going to happen? And people were still losing their minds. And it was like, all right, I had to sit back and think as well, if that had been any other religion other than Christianity that felt attacked, what would the repercussions have been? If that had been any other religion, you pick it, there would have been a war. I mean, there's been biblical wars since man.
Got one going on right now.
I mean, they're going on all over the world right now. So, like, but the one cool thing I thought was, like, and what I said was, protest with your dollar and your participation. If you feel like that was an attack on Christianity, don't watch the Olympics. Don't buy that shit. Which that sucks for a lot of Olympic athletes that have spent their whole lives training for this moment. But you have to, when something crosses a line for you that you truly believe in and you stand for, and my buddy Jason Redmond said this really well, and I wish I could just quote him right now. I was like, damn, I wish I'd have added that to the end of it. But like, when a line is crossed, like, you still have to stand up for what you believe in, but it doesn't mean that it has to, like, go to extremes either.
Correct.
And I felt like the world kind of self-censored that. Like, for once, like, there's a lot of people that still participate in conversation. A lot of people didn't. But that's what you have the right to do in America.
So one of the things that I specifically avoid nowadays, and you probably noticed this doing your homework, doing your research, is I try not to post my opinion online anymore. If I post online, I post what cigars I smoke on Instagram. I might share it to my Facebook page, my Facebook story, but I don't participate in online arguments anymore.
I don't participate in online arguments either. Like, I'm not going to engage you. If you want to send me a bunch of trolling shit, I'm not going to engage you.
No.
Like, I will let you go there. If you want to ask me an honest question or have a conversation about it, I'm all for that. You know, this is a battle my wife and I had. She's like, how much business do you think you've lost because of your podcast? Maybe it was just the guest you had on and that people didn't agree with your guest. Well, I'm sorry. I gave them a platform to speak freely. We held conversation. I would think it would be pretty clear that, like, I just had open conversation with them. I maybe agreed, disagreed, didn't agree, didn't show favor either way, but we had a conversation. Doesn't mean I liked them any less.
But I feel like you feel it this exact way. You deeply honor the right to free speech. So if a client of yours has a specific and inherent disagreement with the right to free speech, you might not want them as a client. Because think of the repercussions of that. If you're not allowed to say what you need to say to get the job done, then now you've just gained a problem client. Instead of someone that will sit and listen to what you have to say in your professional opinion, regardless of how many, regardless of what kind of language you put into it.
Absolutely. And, you know, in construction, the specific business I'm in, there's always problems.
Yes.
What we're judged and graded on is how well we deal with the problems. So if we can't have that honest and open conversation, where are we going to be even on a simple problem?
Exactly.
Because just because you disagreed with, you know, I had Tim Young on here.
Tim runs his mouth.
He didn't. I mean, yeah, that's his handle.
That is his handle.
And I mean, he's been on CNN and every other major station. Did he really go off the handle like I thought he was going to on here? No, not really. But there were still some people that lost their minds about the shit he did say. And I mean, like, and do you automatically assume now because I had him on here that, like, I agreed with everything he said?
If you do,
like,
that's a personal problem.
We need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Like, have a conversation with me. Like,
right.
Is that how you feel? Like, you know, if there's something I say that's bothering you, like, you know, I also had this conversation with Dr. Sean. I can never say his last name right. Said Dr. Sean P. Pashwa. I can't say his last name. Pashush. I don't know. Like, I mess it up all the time. But, like, I had this conversation with him when I was at the Eagle Rise Summit about, you know, like, there's been debate about, like, the language we use on here or, you know, whether or not we cuss or whatnot. He's like, Are you cussing just to cuss?
Shit, no.
Are you trying to make a fucking point?
Yeah. Like, but sometimes it's necessary.
Yes.
Like, and as long as your intention is true and who you are, do you.
There's a difference between filters.
Yeah.
You can filter yourself to the people that are in the room, to the person you're talking to, or you can filter yourself to prevent you from saying what needs to be said or what you want to say.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'm passionate enough about something, or I'm using it for specific effect where I will throw in a swear word.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
And I do it intentionally. I'm not blasé with it.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it intentionally.
Yep.
Because all words have power, but they only have the power you give them. So if you're constantly downgrading the power of a word, then that word loses its meaning over time and it becomes something different.
I agree 1,000% with that.
Well said.
Now,
well said.
For a second here, I want to tell you, because I know this is one of your favorite cigars.
Okay.
I'm really digging this cigar.
Yes.
But the amount of times I have to light this is driving me absolutely insane.
Can I drop you a nugget that I think you already know, Garrett?
Yeah, go ahead.
Every 30 to 60 seconds, take a puff.
Yeah, I know, and we've gotten on to some different conversations.
We've gotten into some rabbit holes,
which is fine. But
yeah,
I mean,
so
like,
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. But
I've just about lost this one a couple times, and I've had to touch it up. So it's no big deal.
There's a couple cigars that I don't know how to do this to. I'm just saying, but yeah.
Well,
that's a pet peeve of mine. Like, a draws a way bigger issue for me, and this draws amazingly. Like, I am definitely a draw snob.
Yeah. Well, I would say a lot of the things that you and I both would prefer to smoke over something like this, which is a hard task to do, those are made with such expert care that if they go out within 2 minutes, something's wrong.
Yeah.
So something that goes out in a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unexpected.
Fair.
It's unexpected.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah.
Well, you said you've shied away from this on social media a little bit, but there are a couple things I do want to hit on here with you, and I want to hear your perspective on them.
Okay.
I'm going to start with first and foremost. Why is this a quote that you really like?
Okay.
You said, I didn't write down who said this, so you can fill this in.
Okay.
But this is on your page. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted. Why is that? That's your number one.
Ezio Auditore from the original Assassin's Creed game. It was a line that they gave. They gave him, but it was his mentor, and I forgot his name now, but that first gave him that line.
Okay.
Nothing is true and everything is permitted. Man, I haven't thought about this one in a while.
Or just what does it mean to you?
So to me, it means that, well, a little bit of everyone has their own perspective. Nothing is true. Nothing is true until you seek the truth behind it. If someone told me some bullshit about you, some stupid antic you got up to here at the lounge,
yeah,
that sounds fun.
Yeah.
And then I'd come to you and I'd go, so Garrett, what happened on Thursday night?
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to seek the truth.
Yeah.
I'm going to go directly to the source.
Yeah.
Instead of listening to secondhand and third-hand perspectives because it's hearsay.
Yeah.
Right? This is a point in Stoicism that I believe it was Marcus Aurelius talked about in his book Meditations, where you only listen to the truth from the original source. So you assume that nothing is true until you have garnered the truth behind it. Now,
absolutely,
that can go deep on many different levels.
Yeah.
But to expand to the point of everything is permitted, it's this idea that outside of law and civilization, man has the capability, man or woman, but man has the capability to do whatever they would like to. And really, if you strip laws away from that, you can do anything you want to. But you have to understand that there are repercussions and consequences to every action you take. The law of inertia, Isaac Newton. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Y'all see why I love sitting around and smoking a cigar with Joseph? I could do this literally all day. Like this could be the longest podcast ever in the history of Common Sense.
And we don't get to do it enough.
Yeah.
I want to touch on that point later. We'll get to that.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Another one I want to hit on with you. And that was an amazing answer, by the way. Like I'm going to go back and listen to that again. Like there's certain times I note things in the podcast that I'm like, that was a great analogy or story, and that was impactful. But you really were, I don't know how involved you were, but you definitely had I could see a passion behind it. Why has the Anti-Predator Project been something that you've been so in tune with, or that you've, put out there, or at least openly spoken about? Like, I'll say that, like, while my wife was sick several weeks back with COVID, I finally watched The Sound of Freedom. Oh, man. I don't even have kids, and that fucked me up just in the aspect of thinking about my nephew and my niece and my cousins and everything else. Like, holy shit. And it made me think about, too, like, I have some friends in the FBI, and I remember a conversation where one of them told me, like, if you saw the heat maps that we have of the known targeting and sites and stuff like that, and when we like monitor where they're logging in, where they're signing on, if you saw the heat map for DFW alone, you'd be totally distraught. Like, you'd be beside yourself.
The average person does not understand at all. And I hope you do your due diligence and find that understanding. But the average person does not understand at all the dangers that are out there lurking under their noses.
In your own neighborhood.
In your neighborhood and in your pocket.
Yeah.
Your phone.
Yeah.
You give your 13-year-old daughter a phone, this has happened.
Yeah.
You give your 13-year-old daughter a phone, she gets access to Kick and Discord. She could be gone in a couple of weeks. Because someone is going to be on that platform that is looking for children, not young women, children to take. Because they can make a profit, or they can fulfill some deep, I want to call it disgusting, but I want to be objective, this deep-seated carnal urge that can, for them, only be fulfilled by children.
That's a fucked up
The
world
dangers are out there, and they are much more present and prevalent than anyone understands that hasn't looked into this.
Yeah. I mean, you talk to anybody
that has that experience, and you will be shocked. One of my good friends, very, very dear friends, was he contacted me and our group of friends about joining the Anti-Predator Project as private investigators. Out in Florida, you've got a gentleman named Trent Steele who runs Anti-Predator Project. And the whole goal of that project is to aid and assist those that have unfortunately been predated. Whether it's women, children, men, because believe it or not, it happens. Yeah. Boys, yes, but men as well, that have been trafficked for whatever it is. They aid them with support, and they aid local and national law enforcement agencies with information and investigative reports that can help them find missing children, missing people.
Yeah.
And there's a whole deep, deep well of red tape in Texas to do something like that. But at first I wasn't deterred, because I started thinking about what happens when I have kids. What happens to my sister's kids? What could happen to my sister, my younger sister? And then after getting involved in that project, I met my older half-sister, who wasn't necessarily trafficked, but lived a life very much coexisting with those that have been trafficked or that are trafficking people. And
damn,
it made me realize all the more how important it is for people to stand up and try to do something about it. And unfortunately, one of the things that deterred me, why I'm not directly involved with the organization on an investigative level, is that it requires full-time effort to deal with law enforcement in Texas, because they want to have full, absolute 100% control over any form of investigating that goes into human trafficking. And I can understand that.
Yeah.
I can truly understand one set of official organizations having the full reign on everything that's going on.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you have an organization that you can call them beat cops, whatever you want to call them. The guys who have boots on the ground are doing a lot about it. But the way our laws are structured and the way that some of their supervisory systems, their chain of commands are structured, not a whole lot is really getting done about the problem of human trafficking. So what the Anti-Predator Project does is, in Florida, they assist law enforcement and even privately held requests to investigate missing children, are generally their specialty. Mm-hmm. And in Texas, we've been able to, over the last few years, do some level of investigating and passing that information off to local law enforcement. That has helped, I believe, 1 or 2 young girls be recovered.
That's badass.
From dire situations. I wasn't directly involved in any of that because the DFW Metroplex, Fort Worth PD, Dallas PD have a relatively tight control. They want everything to be very official, everyone to be, not deputized, but everybody has to be a commissioned law enforcement officer that deals with that stuff directly. So it made things a lot harder if you're not someone who's really good with digital intelligence or I think they call it OSINT. I forget what that's for. I think it's I forget what that acronym breaks down to, but human intelligence, electronics intelligence, digging through emails, digging through code, literally digging to the dark web to find different traces of communications that have happened between predators and children.
Yeah.
And it goes very deep, and it's something that I still am passionate about. I just don't have as much agency to do as much about it as other people in different locations have the ability to.
Well, I mean,
investigate.
At least you get to speak about it.
Absolutely.
We can bring more awareness to the efforts that are going on. I mean, I think that's huge. I mean,
the 2 number 1 organizations I want to commend are, of course, the Anti-Predator Project and Operation Underground Railroad. Mm-hmm. Both of those organizations do phenomenal work. They interface directly with law enforcement to make sure that if people need something done, information communicated, they can get done.
I mean, and that's my problem with the news and shit today. Like, why is this not stuff where...
It is.
I know, but I mean, to the degree it should be. I mean, like,
I don't want to dash law enforcement in any way.
No, I'm not dashing
But
them.
I want to say that politicians are the ones utilizing the news to spread specific and certain information.
Yeah.
To make certain organizations look better than they should be looking.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, when they report that a trafficked child has been recovered, a lot of times, I don't want to say most of the time, but a lot of times it's simply a runaway child that actively ran away. Once they're brought back, they'll do it again.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of the reporting is about, but it's not most.
Yeah.
Now, when you see like the U.S. Marshals run an operation and they say, oh, we were able to save, 24 kids. Oftentimes they don't say, oh, well, it was 24 kids and this operation lasted 9 months, 18 months, 36 months, right? They did great work over that time period, but because it looks better in the press, the press might even omit the time periods in which that operation was taken.
Yeah.
So there's a need for better transparency from law enforcement organizations directly doing press releases of their own to the public, and news news organizations getting the fuck out of the way and actually reporting facts and not trying to make people feel good.
Huh. Couldn't agree with you more, brother. Like,
yeah,
that's just, and I love your outlook on it. And like, I love that, like, you are open to having these discussions and sharing your knowledge. I mean, you have a wealth of knowledge, man. Like you are very well rounded.
Thank you.
I mean, and for the record, he's not just a cigar smoker. Like, this guy smokes pipe.
That's
and
it.
Like, I know nothing about that. And like, that could be a whole nother segment here.
I was say, if we
like,
have enough time, I might pack one and light it up.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you do have 2 cigars.
That is
so,
true.
I mean,
That is
like,
true.
you know, we might not make it all the way there today. But,
No, probably not.
You know, we have that. Well, I want to touch on this, and like, we don't have to go super in depth on this, but I think it's important for people to hear this from you, because I read a lot of your posts about how you felt about it as someone who was adopted, and you're half black, you know, everything else. Like, you know, I felt like you had some really good messages that you put out there. I hate that you felt the need to restrict yourself in any way on that, because I feel like a lot of people need to hear that rawness, that real talk. And like we've talked, and I know why you've not done it. And I mean, I get it, because there's shows I've had where, you know, there's a client of mine, like I'd known this guy for a long time, and we had an entire discussion about racism. Didn't think that was going to happen. It wasn't that early on. Second show maybe of season 2, maybe. I don't know. It was a while ago, but I mean, like, I feel like there's a lot of conversations that people are so afraid to have because they know the backlash. They know what society today is going to do, and someone that just pops on here right now is going to have like some huge fucking problem with this, I'm sure. Or someone that didn't get the full context. Or if we munch this episode later on and it pulls this little segment out and it's a top hit, you know, I'm going to get all kinds of comments about it, you know, what was the intention here? People just assuming and not really digging into it, and like, where did the conversation start? Where did it go? You know, I mean, like, and it's not that we have to agree on everything either, but you took some pretty strong stances during the Black Lives Matter and, you know, racism and stuff like that. Would you indulge us for a few minutes and like maybe explain to us like what your thoughts are on that and where we are today with racism and Black Lives Matter, and just how you feel about all that, and just kind of like give us a little bit. I mean, you can go as far as you want. I mean,
no, this is something I'm perfectly fine to speak on.
Yeah.
The Black Lives Matter movement, I believe, was originally started with good intention.
Yeah.
I believe it. I want to believe that it was started with good intentions.
Yeah.
Until I get to meet the lady that founded Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And sit down and have a conversation with her. I won't ever know, because there's going to be hearsay left and right. But what it turned into was a money-making organization.
Yeah.
It was not about promoting Black lives. It was about causing sensationalism, causing division, and earning a shit ton of money. I think when their tax documents came out in 2022, I want to say maybe.
Yeah. I think you're
millions of dollars in profit. Millions of dollars in profit that doesn't really seem to be accounted for from what I remember. So what I saw with the Black Lives Matter movement, especially when people who were not black, who had no African ancestry, started chiming in support, I was really confused, because I saw I saw something that was really reminiscent of the Black Panthers, but didn't have the same
validity.
Passion. It didn't have the same passion behind it. I felt like it was just approaching it was approaching the wrong solution for the problem because it looked at the problem in the wrong mindset. So you had
do
a
you
lot
feel
of
like
people,
it? Do you feel like it brought? This is a thing I see a problem with in a lot of things, not just the subject, but if you're going to bring up a problem, did you come with some possible solutions?
Right.
That it wasn't just to create the problem or further the problem or exacerbate the problem. Like, is there tangible, actionable things that could be done? Like, what are the 2 or 3 things that can be done? And then what's the best decision? Like, I don't feel like that movement had that at all. That there wasn't like, hey, this is the problem, and we really want to bring recognition, a spotlight to this problem. But here's also what our mission is, our statement. Like, here's our mission statement of things that can tangibly be done to rectify this. Like, it was like a statement with no purpose.
Yes. It was.
I mean, I don't want to say it had no purpose. It was a statement with no given solutions.
It was a dishonest statement to begin with.
Okay.
So it was the biggest danger to black men is police officers. That was the big statement that Black Lives Matter was trying to make. And you had multiple police incidents that were specifically highlighted to further that movement over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And what people got really mad at is when I started bringing up FBI statistics. The FBI records this stuff and posts it on their government website every time a report comes out. The FBI reported in, I think it was 2018, that statistically, looking at crimes all across the country, statistically, a black man is most likely to be murdered by someone of his same complexion. That was the factual statistics that came out. Now, the number of black homicide victims was pretty damn high. And you look at the percentage of that compared to white homicides, and it doesn't match the population percentage.
Okay.
13% black, African American, whatever label you want to put on it.
Yeah.
Roughly 13% of the population should not be the victims of 80% of the murders. That is what they rode with. 80% of the victims are black. We have to fix the problem. The problem comes from institutionalized racism in the police force. That was the problem that they posited. They didn't come up with a solution other than small little offshoots saying different things.
Yeah.
From that was another sparking of the fire, ACAB, all cops are bastards. That is something that I have tried to have conversations with family members about why that is nonsensical. But because a lot of these things are driven by emotion and not logic, you can't logic or fact or statistic your way through the problem. You have to meet them with emotion.
Yeah.
You have to meet them with emotion.
Yeah, you can't take it out.
Because they are only going off of emotion. And yes, this is a very arbitrary, out in the open they. But people approach problems with emotion too often. You can't remove emotion because that is how you make certain decisions, very important decisions in your life.
I wish I could remember Jocko's quote about a man that can't control his emotions right now. Like, if you can't control your emotions, like, you have control over nothing.
Yes.
It's just like your anger. If you can't control your anger. But Jordan Peterson also said there was a point he made where, like, the most dangerous man is not the man that is perceived as the most dangerous. And I'm probably butchering this, but you'll get my point. But the man that actually is dangerous that has complete control over his emotions and his discipline and everything else, that's actually the most powerful.
Be a monster.
Yeah.
That's one of his points. Be a monster.
Yeah.
Be willing to go to the very end for what you believe in, and then learn how to control and bring that back. Mm-hmm. Because you don't need that level of force in most things that you do in daily life.
Yeah.
But having that ability strengthens your capability of handling all of the things in life that don't need the monster.
Yeah.
It's not caging the monster up. It's disciplining the monster so he knows when he needs to be a monster and when he does not.
Yeah.
If we didn't have monsters, the Marine Corps would be empty ranks. The Army would be empty ranks. Our police force, near empty ranks as it is in a lot of places, it would be empty completely if everyone was a coward that didn't know how to control the monster.
Yeah. I mean,
So
absolutely.
and
we keep having a society that is fundamentally pushing that.
Mm-hmm. Well,
versus
so
that's kind of where I go when earlier I said, like, I think we're in for a like massive societal correction. Mm-hmm. Like there has to be. Mm-hmm. You can't have weak men leading other men. Yes. That creates a whole nother problem.
Yes.
And, a strong leader, you see the repercussions of what that is. Mm-hmm. Like, I think there's going to be a massive societal correction because, whether you want to strip this down, like I joked about it early on for anybody that saw early on, whether you want to talk about Eminem or Joe Rogan, mm-hmm. Eminem's new album is him killing Slim Shady. And there's like a skit in there where he's literally talking about, you made me to say all the things that you didn't have the guts to say. And you made me the bad guy. Mm-hmm. And now you want to kill me, but I've given you everything. I made you who you are. Mm. You fed me. You gave me Percocets. You drank me to death. You tried to kill me, but I'm actually what made you. Mm. And that's really deep to think about on that level. Like, he created this whole other persona to say a lot of things that everybody else was thinking but wouldn't say, mm-hmm. or to call things out, mm-hmm. or just to give a voice behind things. Yeah. And people attacked him. And it also made him rich and famous.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it also created demons for him. Mm-hmm. And he had to rein that back in. And I mean, we all know, like Relapse, like how shitty of an album was that? Like, he even tell you that. Yeah. But then it's like same thing with Joe Rogan said. I wish I could remember the exact line of what they said about when he opened up the mothership in Austin in his newest episode or his newest stand-up. And he's like, Fox News came out and said this about my comedy club. He's like, that's the point. It's comedy. Like, if we can't joke about it, then what are we really doing to it?
Yeah.
Like, if you can't say retard, you can't say fag. Like,
you're giving it more power than
you're giving it more power, and these people that are being overly sensitive to these words, my opinion is, be overly sensitive to the intention of the person, not the word. Mm-hmm. Because the word, open up a dictionary or something. There's multiple definitions and usage of every word mm-hmm. in our vocabulary.
Yes.
Multiple.
That's why diction is important.
Yeah. So what was the intention?
Yes.
What was the tone? How was the word used? I mean, can
I tell you a story?
Yeah, please do.
This is a story that has and will forever in the future put me under fire for all the people that I don't care to listen to. Mm-hmm. when I was 14, my mom, my youngest brother, who's 10 years younger than me, so he was 4 at the time, went up to a small town in the southeast corner of North Dakota because my dad was up there building a water tower next to a new casino. He was a welder by trade for many more years than I've been alive.
Okay.
And we went up there and visited him. We were staying in a motel in this small town. And across the street from the motel was the town park.
Yeah.
So I would hang out in the park most days because I was a 14-year-old in a new small town. There wasn't much for me to do. Mm-hmm. So I'd go out to the park and hope I'd run into some kids I could, meet and become friends with. And I'd met this older black gentleman that completely changed my life and how I perceive multiple different things.
Well, I can't wait to hear about this.
I see this old black gentleman and I go, man, this guy, I can tell he's old. He's kind of hunched over, sitting at the park bench.
So he looks like Ty.
And no.
Sorry, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Ty is a baby currently compared to this man.
All right.
I walk over, and before sitting down next to him, I go, hi, how are you doing? How are you doing, sir? My name's Joseph. Do you mind if I sit here next to you? Sure, Joseph, go ahead. Have a seat next to me. But don't call me sir. That's not my name. My name's Nigger Joe. You'll call me by my name. I said, okay, Joe, nice to meet you. My name is not Joe. You'll call me by my name, or I'm not going to respond to you. This dude was 93 years old. 93-year-old black man.
And how old were you?
I was 14.
Okay.
This dude had 80 years on me. 80 years. And as someone that has very much struggled with my identity, or racial identity as a lot of PC people would like to call it, I struggled with my identity for many
Especially
years.
as an adopted kid in a
Especially
family
as an
that
adopted kid.
didn't, exactly match you.
And in a community that I was one of 3 kids until junior year of high school.
Okay.
So I wasn't truly comfortable with the topic of race yet.
Or even the N-word.
Or definitely not the N-word. I heard it once before with a hard R from some dumb kid in high school that very much grew up in a racist household.
Yeah.
And carried on his family's shitty legacy and called me the N-word to my face every day, 3 times a day. It's the first time I ever heard it, but it came from a white kid, so I was like, you know what? I'm not giving him power over me.
Yeah.
And then I heard it in such a reverse way from an older gentleman who was darker than I was.
Yeah.
And he said, son, my name's not Joe. You'll call me Nigger Joe, or I will not talk to you. That's been my name since I was 3 years old. Everyone who regards me with respect is going to call me by my name. And I said, wow. Okay, Nigger Joe, how's your day been? And we got to talking. We got to chatting. Yeah, Biz, I know you've got an incredulous look on your face right now.
Yeah, I wish we had this multi-camera angle we keep talking about.
Yes.
Because if y'all can see Biz's face right now.
I think Biz just
Not that I want to interrupt you at all. I'm so fascinated to hear
I'm hoping this story goes on. So, yeah.
Yeah, go.
The sad thing is it doesn't go on much further than that because I ran into him a couple of times in that same park. And then I got busy with a children's theater that was passing through town and started to get to know some of the other kids my age in town. And I tell you what, they were fascinated with me saying the word y'all. But yeah, because it was kind of it felt like a ghostly encounter.
So why was that encounter so impactful still to this day to you?
Because it made me contextualize time. It made me understand that people from different time periods have different perspectives and different intentions. For the people that gave him that name, it could have been one of 2 intentions I'll never know. It could be simply they were describing the type of person he looked like. The other is that they could have been using that word to demean him and put him out as something lesser. That is our assumed history of that word. Right?
But he also fully owned
Embraced
that,
it.
and he wasn't
100%.
gonna let anybody change that.
Yes.
So what did that mean to you? What when you hold on, I want to make sure I ask this
in the right context.
No, I don't care about context because I think we have that established. But what, as a 14-year-old, what did his to the N-word that means something completely different to you as a 14-year-old that maybe even at that point you hadn't experienced yet because you said it didn't happen until high school. Mm-hmm. When
it actually had happened that happened the semester after I met this guy.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So fair enough. Like that. I mean, I don't think that really makes a huge difference. Okay. But for him to use the N-word the way he did, and to take ownership of it to the point that like he wouldn't even talk to you unless you addressed him that way, and that he owned it. I mean, like that is ownership on a whole nother level. What did you take from that, and what did that mean to you to see somebody that is that much senior to you and different than the leadership in your family? What did that mean to you? Because I have a feeling like you didn't have a lot of other experiences with people of your skin color and that have the makeup you did because you were adopted. But so what did you take from that, and how did that affect you when he took that extreme ownership of that word that, you know, can have so many different meanings that no one would say in today's society?
Yeah. I think it took me a long time to truly digest what it meant to me. The first thing it did for me is it allowed me to understand that I can choose whether a word has power over me or not, regardless of what that word is.
Can you say that again, please?
It allowed me to understand that no single word can have power over me unless I choose to give it that power.
Absolutely, man. That's huge.
Did you have a discussion with anybody in your family about that about that experience after that? I'm just curious to see, like, how did your parents handle, just any of this? Because as you know, I was a foster dad forever. Yeah. So, I'm in Walmart, black dad with Asian, white, blue, green, every other kid, and they're all calling me dad, and the people in there were freaking out. And this is in the 2000s. But did you discuss this with your parents?
I did.
So what was their reaction? Or what was the discussion like?
Oh, man, you're making me dig. So my dad kind of laughed it off. He's very much kind of like those union guys we were talking about before, right? He's blue collar. He's been a welder for many, many years. He's been a police officer. He's been a jailer. He's been a constable. He's been a bounty hunter.
He done seen everybody.
This man has seen so much shit. He was in the army with so many dudes that, as anyone who's gone through military service will say, every skin color and creed can come together as brothers.
We all green.
So
we're all green.
He very much he laughed at incident.
Yeah.
And it kind of rolled over him like water over a duck's feathers.
But now let's talk about mom.
My mom was kind of baffled. And I love that woman dearly. And I don't think to this day she still knows how to process that, because it was such a wild experience for her.
Yeah.
My adoptive father, not my dad, my adoptive father. So when I say dad, I mean my stepdad, the man my mom married in my childhood.
Gotcha.
So my adoptive dad was very, very protective of the veil between this thing that I was that people could see and who he wanted me to be, which was his son. Anything that stood in between that, he put a veil up and didn't allow me to see through it as much as he could control.
Okay.
My mom, I don't want to say aided and abetted him in that, but she kind of did for a long time. She was very much on his side of let's just let him come to terms with him being adopted and everything on his own. What he discovers is what he discovers. So right before this experience, I was 13, and my adoptive dad and my mom sat me down at my house and broke out the grand "you're adopted." At 13, I fucking knew. I knew there was no way that these people were my biological family, and I didn't.
So were you
care.
adopted as a baby?
At birth.
Okay, it's crazy.
Technically 3 months before I was born.
I just had this conversation with Oliver. Well, about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So, but go ahead, because that is like the hardest thing in the world. That I was ready to take a bullet in the leg to have this conversation with him. But I mean, I know you kind of knew. It's just like, look at you, look at me. Something going on. But yeah, so when you had this grandiose conversation.
Yeah, I was very much, okay. Thanks for telling me. Yeah, appreciate that. I love you guys. Thank you. And, my adoptive father was sitting over there literally in tears.
Oh,
I know you. So you've experienced this.
Yes.
So he was in the same boat as you.
He's a chatterbox. Chatter. This is the first time he ever was stark quiet. And I was like, and then
Oliver,
and then you're telling this little 6-year-old at the time, and then he does this. Everybody can't see it, but he puts his hand on it. He goes, And I was like, So I didn't come out of mommy's tummy. Yes, but we're still your parents. And he's like analyzing and thinking about it. Of course, Jesse, the older one, he already knew because, he's 4 years older. He gets it. Mm-hmm. And he's like, but you're my mom and dad? I said, yes, we are your mom and dad.
Yes.
And then when he kept asking this question, I'd break it down. Who gives you your ass whooping when you get in trouble? He says, Dad. I was like, that means I'm your dad because I love you. And I'll always be dad. Then he just literally, we're crying, we're doing everything. And after 15 minutes out of this, he literally stood up and said, okay. And ran off to go play Roblox. And it was done.
Yep.
Never been brought back, never been thought of, never did. But when I say the weight off of our shoulders and telling him what it was and he accepting it and getting it, and now it's the word adopt, that's not even a thing anymore.
Yeah.
You are our child because we've had him since he was 14 months.
Yep.
So we're all he's ever known.
Biz, can I drop a nugget to you? The reason he reacted that way comes from, 2 words, one phrase. Unconditional love. If you can provide your child with unconditional love, whether they're adopted or not, none of that's going to matter. That was how I felt. That's why I didn't bring it up until they brought it up when I was 13. I had kids on the school bus when I was going to school in 1st and 2nd grade. I remember there was these Hispanic kids that lived in our neighborhood. I forget their names now. And I don't want to throw out generic Hispanic names because that feels a little too
Jose and Jose B.
No, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it might have been Jose.
I will not refer to the Dave Chappelle episode. Go ahead.
So I remember them going, "Hey, man, look at the lines on your hand, on the sides of your hand, where you've got light skin tone on your palm and a darker skin tone on the back of your hand. Are your feet the same way? Yeah. Oh man, that means you're black." And I'm like, okay, cool. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I am who I am.
Yeah.
I kind of had that sense from a very young age because I could feel from my mom specifically the absolute unconditional love. My adoptive father, I got it 60, 70% of the time. It's hard with drug addicts. It is. It's hard with addicts because they've got something deeper to feed than the unconditional love for their children.
Yeah.
But I still had it from 2 places.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I needed more than that. So I never questioned it. I was 20 or 21 years old before I truly had a desire in my heart to seek out any blood-related family. Because I didn't feel like I needed it.
Did you?
I did. My mom helped me on a search with my birth mother, Mary. And she was trying to find her through Facebook. So she got onto Facebook, started finding, friends and just messaging random friends of hers. And she finally got a ping back one day. And it was one of my birth mother's friends who knew both of my siblings and was like, hey, I can't get you in contact with Mary right now. I'll just say she's unavailable. She was in prison. But I know her daughter personally. Do you mind if I give her your phone number? My mom said, absolutely, yeah. Then her and my great aunt come back to me and go, both with just tears rolling down their face. You could see, 30-minute-old tear stains and fresh tears coming down as well. And my mom comes up to me and she goes, Joseph, I found your sister. What? You did what now? You were looking for my mom. How'd you find my sister? It's like, I just got messaging around with people on Facebook and I found her. She wants to meet you. I said, okay, give me her number right now. And we had like a 6-hour phone call the first time we ever were in contact after I was a year old. And I love my sister Christina to death. Nice. She's again one of the reasons why I had so much passion to go and work with Anti-Predator Project. It's because I found someone who was lost to me through the lifestyle she was put into. And we found each other.
That's awesome,
it was wonderful. But to go back a little bit, my mom, about this conversation of my friend from North Dakota.
Ninja Jim.
Yes.
Ninja Joe.
Yes.
Ninja Joe.
And she, again, still to this day, probably can't fully process what that conversation truly meant to me. But she was flabbergasted. She was taken aback. She didn't know what to say. I think it might have been the reason why she didn't want to leave the motel room for the next couple of days before we left. Because it just made her uncomfortable. Because she had lived that life of having a black child in a community where a mixed race family doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
I'm shocked you said Azel that you came from. When I moved here in 2015 and I was working for a wedding company and I had to do a wedding in Azel. And when I got there, did everything, and I'll never forget, the groom's father said, well, we're wrapping up everything, brother. You drive a fast car? I was like, actually, yeah, I do. It's that 500 horsepower BMW over there. He said, great. You ever heard of a sundown town? Yep. I said, no, not really. He said, well, it's kind of like you don't want to really be your skin color after dark, and you're in one of those towns right now. I said,
what year was this?
2015.
He said 2015.
This dude told me Azel was a sundown town. So that's been my stereotype of Azel ever since.
How old was this dude? Just guessing.
Oh, he was Ninja Joe's age.
Okay, that's why. Because it used to very much be that way.
That's because when you said that, like, huh? So that's been my assumption. Notice I use the word assumption of Azel, which is past Weatherford, and it's not
past Lake Worth.
That's what it is. Lake Worth.
Yeah.
When I left there, that little BMW did about a $120 all the way back to Frisco, because I didn't know. I wasn't even living here. Maybe that was my 4th week living in Texas, so I didn't know.
Yeah.
So that was just my assumption about it, and you literally, 8-9 years later, you have brung me clarity on that. Because everybody was cool. I'm like, this is dope. I was falling in love with Texas. Everything was great. And he just pulled me to the side. And he was really cool, really nice about it. When he told me the whole sundown town thing and everything, he said, yeah, man, you got a full tank of gas? I'm like, and I had to stop for gas when I left. And I was all nervous getting, everybody was cool. So I'm like, this dude really stamped this stereotype in my brain when I left Azel, you know?
It's not the majority of people out there. But I will say that there are, for lack of a better term, there's holdouts out there. Yeah. Just like fucking 2009 when I was a freshman in high school. I had the same kid every day call me the N-word to my face 3 times a day. Once on the bus in the morning, once when we passed in between some shit like second and third period, and once on the bus going home. Every day. And the other thing that meeting that gentleman brought to me was not letting words have power over me. It allowed me to want to punch this dude in the face every day, but not do it. Because I knew the moment I lash out, I've given him power over me. I have sunk to his level, and now I'm no better than him.
It takes a
that's
lot.
A powerful statement right there.
That takes a lot.
And you know what? There's even this, like, I see this too. Like, there's the Karens of the world and people like that. Like, naturally, I used to hate this about how I was raised. That, we moved every 3 years and I had to make new friends every 3 years. That sucked. Mm-hmm. And then I would come to whatever new town it was, even Texas. And I've been here since 96, so a long ass time. Mm-hmm. I hated the fact that, like, you tell me about, you introduced me to your best friend and you've known him since kindergarten because you've lived in the same place. Mm-hmm. I hated that. I was jealous. I was envious of that.
Because he was always bouncing around.
Yeah, because I had to make new friends every 3 years, and that shit sucked. And, but it kind of made me, it totally made me learn to adapt and to find my place no matter where it was that we lived, no matter what age it was. I mean, I moved at critical ages too. I mean, Texas was the last straw for my mom. She's like, nah, he's going into his junior year of high school. Oh, like, you're not, she told my dad, because his next stop was DC.
Oh, shit.
And my mom told him, like, yeah, you can go by yourself. Like, you're not moving the other kid. You're not moving the kids again. Garrett's going to his junior year. TJ's going to be a freshman next year. Like, I'm not doing this again. Yeah. And kudos to my mom for that. Like, it was hard enough, like, moving from Wichita, Kansas. I was in Wichita, Kansas, first grade to third grade. Mm-hmm. And that was tough because I went to an almost all black school. Mm-hmm. I got my ass beat every fucking day. But then I moved to Olathe, Kansas.
I was about to say, and then you got a skateboard.
And I got a skateboard. Everybody's heard that story. then I moved to Olathe, Kansas, which was, different again. And I had to make all new friends again. But there were still bullies. Like, there was still all these people. And, like, I had to find my place there. Did that in third grade through sixth grade. Finally got like where I was comfortable again. And I had good friends and this, that. And then at the end of sixth grade, now we're going to junior high, middle school. And I moved to Glastonbury, Connecticut.
Jeez.
So I do 7th, 8th, freshman year, sophomore year in Connecticut. And that's a whole nother mix of kids, like there's a long history of like families that have been there for hundreds of years. It's the Northeast, hundreds of years. And then there's the middle class. There's the Puerto Ricans. It's not like Texas. If you take Connecticut, you replace Hispanics with Puerto Ricans.
Yep. East Coast, yep.
Yeah. Yep. And then there were black people, Puerto Ricans, and then there's white people. There were Jewish people. There were Polish people. A whole mix of civilizations that have been in the East Coast for, and it really seems stupid because it's only been a couple hundred years.
Right.
But that's now my new norm. Like, we didn't even own a snow shovel the first time that it snowed. And it was a fucking nor'easter that dropped like 18 inches of snow overnight. Like, crazy. And then I moved to Texas and everybody's like, you have a really cool accent. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, now my accent's cool?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a mix of all this shit. 'Cause I was born in Oklahoma, moved all over in Kansas. Then I ended up in Connecticut. And then I'm like back here. And it's just like, you see these things, but it's even to this day, you see it like, how do we start breaking this down? Because like, I think this would be a really cool point. Like, if you have any ideas on this as well, being who you are and your background, you felt these things. I've felt these things. And actually, the strongest time I ever felt racism was when I went with my wife to Jordan. And I got put in a situation where I'm traveling with her aunt and a cousin and her and me. So 3 women and a guy in the Middle East.
They're all Jordanian.
No.
Oh.
Her aunt is Hispanic and German.
Okay.
But speaks a little bit of Arabic. Lives there part of the time.
Okay.
And then her cousin, who is full Jordanian.
Okay.
And they asked me if I want to drive. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not driving in this country. Are you crazy? Well, bad call, too, because my wife is born and raised in Plano, but is half Jordanian, half white. Bad situation. Like, I mean, like, there's checkpoints. There's guys with guns, military. That's how that country operates. And, you know, I'm whitey sitting in the back of a BMW with 3 women.
Doesn't look good.
Doesn't look real great when we're going through these checkpoints. You know, then we get to a restaurant one night. They literally will not even, they gave everybody else at the table water except me. They came around and asked, like, we like had to the point, like, one night, like, my father-in-law is a badass and I love him to death and he's awesome. And this happened again at a really nice restaurant in a really nice hotel. I won't call anybody out, but happened again. And we got up and walked out and left. And I was like, oh, this is truly what racism is. Like I thought I had experienced it at times, but like now I actually, like, it clicked on every level. And I was like, now I actually really know. But like, you see it even today. If you were dressed a certain way and you and I were walking down a street, let's just go Deep Ellum. Deep Ellum is a historic, amazing place that I love in Dallas. Great music, great food, great culture. I think Deep Ellum is awesome. But if you and I didn't know each other and walked down the street a certain way and crossed paths, and you were dressed a certain way, and you weren't dressed like this, do you dress this way intentionally? Or is that just who Frojo is?
Just me.
Just Frojo, right?
I just pick what I like.
But what if we swapped your clothes out and made you look a little more gangster?
Yeah.
Now, is Whitey, that has not been exposed to this many things, going to look at you differently? Or vice versa? What if I look like, I mean, I'm trying to find these different things, but like, it's still that presumption that like everybody fits in a box and that like all black people are gangster, or all black guys that are big and athletic looking are a fucking basketball player or a football player. Like,
what's the name of the movie that Don Cheadle's in? But at the beginning of the movie,
Crash.
Yes, when Ludacris and the guy were walking down the street and they had that exact conversation. So look at the way everybody's looking at us. We're just 2 black guys walking down the street. They're avoiding us. They're acting like we're crazy. They think that we gangsters and whatever. And then you said it's so crazy how stereotypes are, and it's just messed up. And then literally they said, but today it's true. And they turn around and they carjack the lady and take her car. Yeah. But it was crazy how they opened it with that exact conversation about perception. Even though they fit the stereotype because they carjacked someone after having this intellectual, like the first time I see it in theaters, and I was flabbergasted. I was like,
no, but this is my, all right. So this is my question to you guys.
Okay.
How do we change that perception? Like what do we do as a society to start changing that perception where you instantly, no matter if we're not going to just all be humans and we're still going to have these boxes and categories, how do we start changing the perception and giving somebody an initial tag? Just because you're a black man in Deep Ellum and your wardrobe suggests to me, you know, that maybe you could be offensive, or maybe you're a threat, maybe you're dangerous, or same thing, vice versa, that like I'm walking through in my grunge, you know, I'm going to a metal show. I'm looking like I just came out of a Metallica concert, and
I'm gonna let Joseph answer that first.
Because I really want to hear your guys' answers. Like, how do we start changing this initial presumption that you fit a stereotype? Like, how do we start changing this? Because, like, I think this is the last remnants of what still causes division and issues in society today, because everybody's still judging books by the cover and associating things, which is a natural human brain function, I think, all the way back to like the predator days of, like, you know, identifying a predator, you know, on the most simplest level. And I'm really going far back here. Like, don't take that too literally in the sense here. But, like, how do we start changing that perception?
We teach critical thinking at every level of school, and it never stops. You start when children are very young. You teach them critical thinking, how to discern things on their own, because we're creatures of patterns. Whether you're incredibly autistic or you're on the exact opposite of that scale, everyone, every human, every creature utilizes patterns to recognize different things in their environment. What we need to get better at is thinking critically in the moment, because we're going to use our judgment to protect ourselves. It's hardwired into our DNA. We're always going to look at something that could be a potential danger. We're going to assess it.
Because it's different.
Because it could be anything that's different.
Yeah,
something that's out of the norm.
Anything.
Right? Let's say you're on your commute home from work and you see the route you normally take has a detour or it's closed. You freak out because it's not in your normal pattern. Now it feels dangerous. It is brought to your attention. You have to be able to think more critically in the moment, because I've caught myself doing this. If I walk around in a public area and I see a large group of guys, specifically men, if I see a large group of men, I'm going to skirt around the edge of that group, or I'm going to avoid that group, because I understand that regardless of their intention, numbers will always overpower me. I'm always going to be defenseless to numbers. So I avoid large groups of men because it could potentially be hazardous. Now, if I recognize someone in that group, if my pattern recognition goes off in a positive way, then I'll interact with that group. I'll introduce myself to everyone that's there, because now there's a common thread between myself and something that I used to see as dangerous.
So we also need to probably teach finding a common thread.
Yeah.
With anyone.
Because, let's say you've got that example of the movie Crash. You've got Don Cheadle and, who'd you say, Ludacris? Walking down the street. Let's say one of them's wearing a Tupac shirt. Instead of avoiding them thinking that they're scary, you go, you know what? Hey, man, I love your T-shirt. Do you know much about Tupac? Because I know nothing. Tell me a little bit about Tupac. What you know? That requires, one, courage, but it also requires the ability for discourse. You have to know how to engage people to get the reaction that you want to see, not the reaction that you expect. Because if you walk down the street and you see a group of guys that look like they're in a gang, and you give them a weird vibe, you make them feel like you're scared of them, now they see a target. They see a mark. They see a victim. But if you cross the street calmly, nonchalantly, like you plan to do it anyway, or that it's not taking you out of your way and you're not running across the street, they might not see that as someone who feels threatened. It's building our comfortability with engaging with people. Because we have our fucking phones in our hands all the time, we're always on the computer or something, we've distanced ourselves from interacting with people. That's the first thing we need to do.
But I think that's part of it.
It's part
you got to take away the influential.
Munch, you better munch this shit.
Sheep machine.
Yes.
Because of everything you can teach will be dethroned and it will be deprogrammed by the sheep machine, which is social media and the narrative that you see in the news and the media. It wasn't this bad when we didn't have instant access to everybody's opinion. Because everybody, like in Omaha, Nebraska, where I'm from, black and brown is only represented on the news if somebody was shot, if there was a charity case, or if there was something negative.
I saw an interesting stat along those lines too, that 10% of the people on social media, all platforms considered, are providing like 90-something% of the commentary and the opinion.
And they're put on this high pedestal, and they are the regard. They are
I can guarantee you, just because of the subjects and the words we use in this night, this shit will be pushed so far down on anybody trying to listen to this,
because it's not trending in the way that the narrative wants it to go.
Narrative that they want out there.
But here's what's most important.
And this is the most real talk any of them have had.
And the most important thing about this is to teach people to openly express what they believe in.
Yeah.
There's a couple of people that I still follow on Facebook. There's one in particular who's a friend of a friend. I haven't had the chance to meet him in person yet.
Yeah.
He is a highly, highly devout Christian man. I'm not particularly religious in any one way or another. He is devout. Okay. And some of his stuff that goes really deep into the history of Christianity and into the organizational structure of the different churches, it doesn't appeal to me. But what does appeal to me is when he is open and honest about what his beliefs are and how they tie back into something else in society. I have not defriended him on Facebook. I haven't ran away from his posts, because even though he's not someone I directly interface with on the day-to-day, he's someone whose perspective I can appreciate. Because it's well informed, for one, but it's also well formatted.
Yeah, and you also, because he is so openly honest and says what he thinks and says what he believes, you know exactly where he stands.
Yes.
You don't have to question that. Like, I would rather somebody come out and tell me straight up, like, even if I don't agree with them, just tell me that's how you feel. Mm-hmm. Cool. We can either continue to converse about that, or we don't have to.
Yes.
I now know where you stand on X issue.
Yes.
And that's fine. I don't have to agree with you on every fucking thing. Like, all right, cool. You're super into this, and people change. Yes. People grow. If you don't, there's something wrong with you. Like, you know, like one of my favorite lines is someone said, I wish to God I could remember who quoted this. Like, if you're still hanging out with the same dudes from high school and reminiscing the old days and telling the same bullshit stories and reliving that shit, none of you have grown at all. Like, I don't want to be in that. I don't want to be in that group, like, at all. Like, yeah, it sucks sometimes that you realize that someone that you really thought was a close friend is more of an acquaintance. Or maybe it was just all business. Mm-hmm. Maybe, but respect it for what it is and move on. Mm-hmm. Like, let the true things find you in life or find them in life, and let some of that go.
Yes.
Like, you don't have to hold on to that forever. Like, yeah, it's great to reminisce, and it's a lot of fun when you get around your buddies and you can tell old stories.
That's what high school reunions are for. Yeah, that's not what every afternoon is for.
But that shouldn't be your day-to-day norm. Like, you need to grow. You need to meet new people. You need to meet people that are different than you.
Yes.
And you need to hear more opinions and travel. Like, I think that's a huge thing. And I know we started early and we're running over. I really don't give a shit tonight. No one's holding a gun to my head here, so, you know, we're good to go. But
repeat the word I said earlier and I might. I'm kidding. Keep going.
Damn it, Joseph. All right. But there's one other thing that I didn't get at. And before I turn the mic over to you again, but I am turning it over to you on this question. You had a really interesting post that I really enjoyed your perspective on. And I'd like you to share it again in whatever way feels normal now.
Okay.
But this goes back to that, like, early 2020s where like historical statues were being destroyed and removed and stuff like that. And I thought your post and your comments on it were spot on, man. Like, I agree. Like, you know, there's a lot of things I don't agree with.
Thank you, sir.
But like, that's history. You know, like Joe Rogan said it in his recent stand-up, like, when I was 6 years old, I could dress up like Adolf Hitler and show up and like the Jewish families like rub my head like, oh, look at little Hitler. Like, that's so cute. Like, didn't take personal offense to it. Like, you know, like, yeah, what Hitler did was atrocious. Like, it was a horrible thing. But there wasn't this personal attachment like that this kid was trying to be offensive. Again, it was intention.
Right.
So maybe take us back through that, like your opinion on that situation and your statement on history, if that like kind of takes you back to that.
When I saw statues being torn down inside of the continental United States, not just being removed and placed in museums, but being torn down and destroyed, my heart broke. Because I remember one specific incident that had to do with one of the Middle Eastern terror organizations. I can't remember if it was Al-Qaeda or after Al-Qaeda had born ISIS.
Yeah.
But one of those groups went in and started destroying, defacing, and demolishing just statues that have been there for
thousands of years.
Thousands of years, depending on how you want to argue it, since Christ or before. They were tearing down, defacing, and destroying these statues that held immense historical significance.
Yeah.
Because it did not match their narrative of Sharia law.
Yeah.
So to see that happen here, I was heartbroken and distraught. Because what that signifies to me is that your narrative is so fragile that you have to destroy history and all of the markers
to support your narrative.
You have to remove the past, disregard it, discard it, and forget it ever existed, and force other people to forget that history happened.
Instead of learning from it.
Instead of understanding that history, understanding the temporal context of the time that those people lived in, and not putting today's values in place of yesterday's values. That's fact that someone would want to get rid of a statue of Thomas Jefferson or George Washington because they owned slaves appalls me. Because at their point in history, owning slaves was one of the most normal things a landowner could do.
Yeah. It would be like someone telling us that like Pepsi or Coke was bad.
Well, I mean, it's...
You know what I mean? It's probably maybe a bad analogy.
Well, let's put it this way. It's like saying you're not allowed to own anything that allows your business to profit. Sure, someone might call me a filthy capitalist for that. I don't give a flying fuck.
Yeah.
Because I look at it with historical context. In that day and age, that was not a necessity, but a norm. So to apply today's societal norms to then is dishonest. Because you're removing historical context, which means you're throwing away a part of history.
Yeah.
If we completely get rid of the fact that Africans sold other Africans to Europeans for the purpose of slavery because they already had them enslaved, but they wanted better weapons to enslave and take over more tribes all across Africa, then you're devaluing what actually happened with slavery in the United States. Because slavery has happened and continues to happen to this day all across the globe in our backyard. So to devalue that one piece of slavery, it's dishonest. So I feel like we need to study history. We need to be active students of our past. We need to be active in our present, and we need to be active at building the future we want to see.
Yeah, start creating the better future that you want to see.
The problem is that you have a collection of people that want to do so honestly, honoring our history and our past by not shying away from it. Then you have a camp that wants to get rid of a part of history because it complicates their stance and it complicates where they want to go in the future. Their perspective of our future potential is dishonest because they don't understand our historical facts, or they want to ignore them and they want other people to ignore them.
Dude, that's straight fire. Like, this is why I love, like, you're one of few people that I can legit sit and do this with.
Thank you. That means the world to me.
Well, thank you, man. Like, cause like I fully enjoy being able to have these types of conversations. Like, these are the types of conversations that I feel like as a society we need to be having. Like, how do we grow if we're not doing this or having these conversations? Like you said, like,
yes,
history is history. We can make, like, we've shown that we live in an age of, like, the greatest communication in the world that the world's ever seen. But yet, we're so bad at communicating. We are so bad at communicating.
Yes. It's because we're not taught to communicate. We're not taught to do so many things. And I think, without going down a conspiratorial rabbit hole, I think it's for a purpose. I think our education system has been designed, tweaked, and altered for a long time for a specific purpose.
And to keep us right in this lane.
And I think your societal correction idea fits into this. Because our society has been guided in a specific way by people for a specific purpose.
Yeah.
It always has been. It always will be. It just depends on whether that purpose is done with good intent or malicious intent. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Dude, I just want to thank you for coming on here and being you and sharing with us your wisdom, your experiences. I think it's hugely impactful for anybody that actually took the time to listen to us. I hope this is one that really, like, hits off and goes, because you shared so much great insight and so many great thoughts. And you just, man, dude, you're a wizard with words.
Thank you.
Like,
I was one of the kids. I was the one of two kids in my school that at lunchtime I wouldn't sit and gossip.
Yeah.
In elementary and middle school, I sat and I read one of three things: the dictionary, the thesaurus, or Encyclopedia Britannica.
Do thesauruses even exist anymore?
They're mostly online, unfortunately. Yeah, you can still find a copy at your local bookstore.
All right.
You should.
Well, we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
We're definitely going to run one of these back again.
Yes.
Like, you have to be a return guest. Like,
tell me when.
I'm not taking no for an answer.
2 words: say when, or 2 phrases. Say when, and I'm your Huckleberry.
All right, cool. We might even have to. There's 2 shows that I've thought of that would be really great. I want to do one with him and Darnell, and him and my older brother Dean. I think both of those would be fire shows that we can, like, dive into other rabbit holes that all of you would speak very well on. But since this is Common Sense Podcast, we end the show the same way all the time.
Absolutely.
I know you don't have children yet. Probably in the future, coming down the road, I don't know. But if you had to give, let's just say someone, a close friend, one piece of advice, what would your piece of advice be?
Find a third place. Seriously, find a third place. The third place principle is broken down into home is your first place. Home is the place where you are comfortable and protected from anything or everything that could be bad in society. That's why people with broken homes or homes that aren't conducive to growth have a really tough time in life. Then you have work, a place where you can be productive and feel like you are a contributing member of society. Your third place is solely for you and those that also enjoy that third place. We've all found our third place here at Industrial Cigar Company for a damn good reason. That could be church. It used to be the barbershops or the hair salon. It could be the library. Find a third place, somewhere where you can go to and have discussions like this. Somewhere where you can go to leave all of the stress and worries at work, to leave the comfort of home, and do what Dr. Jordan B. Peterson calls being the lobster. You have to be uncomfortable to grow. A lobster cannot grow its shell. It has to molt and leave its old shell to grow a new one. That means it has a period of time where that lobster is very soft and vulnerable to many dangers that it wouldn't be vulnerable to if it had its shell. But if it wants to continue to grow, to live, to become a larger, more wise lobster, it has to be uncomfortable for a period of time. So find a third place where you can help other people grow and they can help you grow as well. So that's not just going down to the bar with your drinking buddies and sitting and saying nothing, or like you said earlier, rehashing the same old shit from 12 years ago. You have to have new conversations with new people with ideas that specifically contradict your own, because that is how you learn and that is how you grow from other people's perspectives. Find yourself a third place. It's my 2 cents.
Oh, that might be the best one ever given on this show. Like, mic drop.
If they didn't cost so much, I would say mic drop, but that shit costs a lot of money.
Yeah, like, damn. All right. Well, here's the last one, Joseph. Can't wait to see what you do with this.
All right.
So now we like to have this segment called Just Give Us Your 2 cents. And this can be anything that we've asked you or that we haven't asked you that you want to expand upon more, or maybe it's just something that's been weighing on you that you would like to share, or maybe it's just a point you want to get across or something you're inspired to say that, you know, you think would help everybody else. It's just literally you giving our listeners Joseph's 2 cents. I don't know how you're going to top the last one because that was straight fucking fire.
I find there's a stark difference between Black Americans and African Americans. And anyone that has problems with that statement, listen to what I have to say. Black America is often regarded as a community or the community. It's not. Black Americans at large, or at least what we see in the media, what we see as the stereotypes, are people that often don't do honest work for an honest day's pay. They're people that ride coattails of others or search for virality and fame and celebrity, because that is what they are being fed by the media that they consume. Then you have African Americans, those with direct African lineage, whether that is first generation born in America or fresh off the boat from Nigeria. Those individuals, those families, understand what it is to be Americans because they are freshly minted Americans. They aren't people whose families who have been honestly put down in certain ways by the system for specific reasons. So they don't have this negative and tainted viewpoint on America. They have a fresh perspective of what it means to be an American, which to them, oftentimes it means to work hard, because working hard will produce all of the fruits that your family will need to survive and to thrive. You see people coming over. I use Nigeria as an example because that's most of my African heritage from many, many generations back.
Yeah.
But you see those freshly coming from Nigeria, they're doctors, they're lawyers, their kids, oftentimes, if they go to public school, go to private colleges. If they don't go to private college or public school, they go to private school because they understand the value of education that they could not have given their kids where they originated from. And they understand that they themselves and their kids have more and better and more bountiful opportunities than they had from their home country. They understand the drive that it means to be a valuable member of this country. And I think we all, as Americans of many generations past, need to see that example and to learn to be better Americans from that example.
Woo! Man, I didn't think you could top the last one. And man, Munch better do its work this week, because both of those were gold nuggets that anybody and everybody could learn and use in their lives.
And here's the way I put it. Here's the way I like to approach it. I don't post on social media like I used to.
Yeah.
Because the only people that I value having these messages are those that will sit with me and have a discussion. I want them to hear the message, not read the message.
Man, I'm going to challenge you on that, because we need more people in this world that are willing to share their experiences and their knowledge that they've gained in life, like you have done tonight on here, man. So I don't know what your platform is. I don't know what it is that you're comfortable with, but man, the same way Jason Redman and Kenny Mitchell and them challenged me to share my message and to speak publicly, man, I want to do the same for you, because your conversation with me tonight has been very impactful on me. I know it will be on others.
I hope so.
And man, like you, I feel like this is something you were destined to do. Like you need to be able to share your messages with others. I mean, I don't know what that looks like for you. I don't know like where you're comfortable with that at, but man, like don't stop.
We'll talk.
Yeah, we can talk, but I mean, like, don't stop, bro. Like, because, man, everything you're saying is very impactful in the world that we live in today. And, like, bro, thank you. I'm honored to have had you as a guest and to be able to call you a friend. Like, dude, like, this has been killer.
Thank you.
But thank you for coming on, man.
It's been my pleasure.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to wrap this up. We've gone way over. We started early, and this might be the longest podcast we've ever done. But I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I mean, I hope you just take some piece of this tonight and can do something positive with it in your life. Even if it didn't directly apply to you, maybe you know somebody that is struggling with anything that we talked about tonight, and you can share it with them. Give it a like, put it out there. But I appreciate each and every one of you that tunes in and supports the show and lets us have this platform to talk about things that the real world needs to fucking talk about.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, man, go for it.
I started the idea of a platform. Let's use this to give me some fire. If anybody got anything or feels like someone could get anything out of this, go follow my Instagram at discourse with Joseph. I believe it's at discourse_W_Joseph. Give me a reason to start doing something.
Yeah, man. Y'all follow my dude. Like, we're gonna find a way to get you doing more of this, because I don't want your message and your story to go unheard, man. Like,
We'll talk after this.
yeah.
Thank you, guys.
I know a guy.
Yeah. But thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you again next Thursday. Same time, same place. Y'all be safe out there. Peace.